This is the National Instruments roboRIO. It is the brain of the robot for the first robotics competition. Unlike the cRIO, the roboRIO was designed specifically for the first robotics competition and has many new features. The roboRIO can be programmed in LabVIEW, Java, or C++, and all of the code is backwards compatible, so you can run code written for your roboRIO on a cRIO. This means that even though your cRIOs are no longer allowed in competition, they're still very useful prototyping tools for your team. Unlike the cRIO, the roboRIO has all the pinouts on the board itself. This means that a digital sidecar and analog breakout board are no longer required. One important thing to note is how the pins are indexed on the roboRIO and in the code. The first pin is pin 0, and the last pin is 1 minus the total amount of pins. For example, there are 10 DIO pins. The first one is 0, the last one is 9. On the roboRIO, there are 10 PWM pins, 10 DIO pins, 4 analog in pins, 2 analog out pins, and 4 relay pins. There's also a port on the roboRIO for the robot safety light. The status of the safety light is also reflected on the RSL indicator light. Other methods of communication available in the roboRIO are RS-232, SPI, and I2C. The roboRIO also features a 3-axis accelerometer integrated into the board itself. There's a new feature on the roboRIO called the Custom Electronics Port. The Custom Electronics Port is a shared pin system for the roboRIO. In the code, you can assign these pins to be whatever type of I/O you want. One other feature that was not available on the control system last year is the 2 analog out pins located on the Custom Electronics Port. You'll also notice that there are 2 USB-A ports and 1 USB-B port on the roboRIO. You can use the USB-B port to connect to your computer and download code or update the firmware of the roboRIO. Similar to last year, there's also an Ethernet cable port on the roboRIO. This can be used to download code to the roboRIO or connect to an Axis camera. The Ethernet port now has an MDNS configuration, which will no longer require you to change your computer's IP address to connect to the roboRIO. The roboRIO is powered with 12 volts from the PDP and uses this connector to attach it. Even though the roboRIO was designed for 12 volts, it has a range of 7 to 16 volts in case you lose voltage at the end of a match. In order to communicate with the pneumatics control module and the power distribution panel, the roboRIO uses CAN communication. One important feature of the roboRIO is the new mounting options. On the back, you can see that there are 4 slots that can be used to mount the device with zip ties. There are also 4 threaded holes of size 432 to mount the roboRIO more securely with bolts or screws. The final slot is a slot around the corner. You can now attach things to the corner of the roboRIO.